Hey sports fans, this football season, MDOT wants to ensure you get to your game day destination safely. So before you hit the road to watch your favorite team, be sure to download the MDOT Traffic app. The MDOT Traffic app is free for both Apple and Android devices. And remember to drive smart on the way to the game. That means buckling up, obeying the speed limit, and avoiding distracted driving, especially when traveling in work zones. For more information, follow at Mississippi DOT on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, Coach. This is John Sudbury from the Allstate Sugar Bowl in the Media Relations Office. We're going to get started up right now. I'll be moderating the whole thing. We'll start with a brief opening statement, then we'll go to questions. So if you'd like to go ahead and start up with the opening statement. Thank you.
Well, we're excited to be in the Sugar Bowl. Obviously, an amazing tradition. For us to be in there in our second year, just a phenomenal job by our players and assistant coaches, playing a great opponent. Coach Aranda well, not from working with him, but from going against him at a number of places. I think I mentioned before, I remember being at one of the places and there was a stat of, the previous 5 years of where he had been. They had the best average per run allowed in the country, combined over the 5 years. So they've always played great wherever he's been, and you can see how hard they play and give people a lot of problems. So it's an exciting matchup. Obviously, COVID's still around and has been an issue, that we're dealing with. And we pushed back as far as we could from going down there, as long as we could, just from getting out of, our protocols here, which are easier to follow. So we will be there eventually.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to questions. We'll start with Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. Michael?
Hey, Lane, can you hear me?
Yep.
Just in terms of adjusting sort of on the fly to all the COVID protocols, how has all this kind of changed the way that you guys have prepped over the last few days, and I guess how kids kind of went home for vacation and whatnot?
Yeah, we just got back last night, so we practiced this morning. That would have been no different. We came back at the same time as if we were going to New Orleans, so we would have been in New Orleans last night, practicing there this morning, just like we did. So none of the prep part has changed. We're just doing our stuff here instead of there. And that's not, really, actually, these players outside of transfers, none of them have been to a bowl game besides last year at the Outback, which was similar to this because of COVID, where we went a lot more close, where we went close to the game as opposed to a normal bowl week.
Our next question is from John Sokoloff from WCBI TV in Columbus.
What's up, Lane? I just wanted to talk about, what it says about your team, the fact that there are no opt-outs from this team. What does it kind of show about the cohesion of the crew?
I think it's awesome, especially we didn't have a conversation. It's not like someone came in wavering and we had to talk them out of it or go over the pros and cons. I think it says a lot about this team. I think it says the culture that's been created here. And, I think improvement from year one to year two also, when you look at that. And it takes a while for your culture to, set in. So that was really cool to see, to not have to deal with that.
We'll next go to Ted Lewis from the New Orleans Times-Picayune. Ted, be sure to unmute.
Lane, hi. Two questions for you. First, what can you say about the Caden Costas situation and Ole Miss's support for him in his appeal? And secondly, when you see all the other bowl games, are some of them having trouble, teams having opt out, and yet in other cases, the other big New Year's Six games, teams are coming in as scheduled. What went into your thinking that this would be the best thing to do is delay your coming down as soon as possible, as late as possible?
Yeah, ideally from a COVID standpoint, we would come in like a road game, the night before, because that's just think about it. Why are you going to go somewhere early, have your kids walking around a different city, around different people, picture a week of walking around Bourbon Street and everything. I don't think that that's really, up there high on COVID protocol. So we stay as long as they would let us, actually, because of that. So it's a lot easier to monitor kids, have them here where they're used to. There's not a lot of stuff around here with school being out also. So there's not a lot of places for them to go and things. We really, we're already scheduled to leave when this came about, where they allowed us, actually literally as people were leaving here before the break, is when they came out and said, with allowing us not to have to go as scheduled for teams. We were already going. Had that been a day or two early, we may have changed even the Christmas part and not let these kids go home for Christmas like I think Michigan did. So I know it's not ideal for them, but you want to do that, or do you want to go have fun for a week and have players get COVID and they can't play, or we can't even play the game?
Next, we'll go to Nick Suss from the Clarion Ledger.
Lane, with all this stuff, do you have anybody who can't practice right now because of the spike, or anybody that you think might be in danger of missing the game?
Yeah, we do. As you know from being around here, we're not going to get into that and the number of them or the details of it, but yeah, we do.
How are you guys handling testing? What are the requirements? Is it all self-reporting, or is there something the Sugar Bowl is making you guys do with that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm not getting into all that. But we're doing the best that we can to manage it.
Our next question is from London Lawrence from the Daily Mississippian.
Hi, Coach Kiffin. You have put a big emphasis on fans in the stands and how it affects the gameplay, and talking about fans staying in the stadium. What are you looking for out of the fans down in New Orleans? What are you expecting from the fans?
Well, I hope to show up. I think you never know, especially in COVID, what's going to happen, and how many, even the ones at bottom, do they keep them? Do they have COVID issues in family? Do they sell them? So I don't think we're going to have any idea, about which side has more fans and how many actual fans are there, being a neutral site game and with all the COVID stuff going on.
Next, we'll go to Jude Papillon from the Tulane Hullabaloo.
Coach Kiffin, what does being invited to the Sugar Bowl say about the progress that you guys have made over the past few seasons?
Like I said in the opening, it says a lot about our players, that in 2 short seasons with COVID shortening the first one and no spring that year, to be in the Sugar Bowl. And crazy enough, someone said the other day, what if you would have played good versus Auburn? I don't even know if it's even allowed. Are there 3 SEC teams in the playoffs? Because we're sitting there at 11-1. I don't even know that rule. So I'm sure you guys do. So that's crazy to think that you're even that close, to that level in year 2. Just speaks a ton of the players and their performance.
We'll go back to Michael Katz for a follow-up question.
Obviously a lot of stuff behind the scenes in terms of COVID testing and all that stuff throughout the year, but for the most part, this season kind of went unimpeded. Is there a frustration factor from you or your players or anyone that this is all kind of starting to happen right now at the very end of a season that for the most part kind of went about as well as it could have?
I think they've trained. They've got 2 years of hearing, worrying about what you can control, and they certainly can't control COVID, whether that's changing games or how early you go to games and stuff like that. So we worry about what we control, and I think they've started to understand that, and this would fall into that.
We have a follow-up from Ted Lewis from the Times-Picayune.
Yes. Lane, I asked you earlier about Caden Costa. You didn't answer that. What happened with him, do you believe? And can you talk about his appeal and where things stand with that?
Well, we hope his appeal obviously comes through and that he's back. I can't, with HIPAA, I can't get into anything more than that.
We do have time for a few more questions for Coach Kiffin. Once again, please use the raise your hand function, which is probably under reactions at the bottom of your screen. Any additional questions for Coach Kiffin? Coach, thank you very much for taking the time today. We know you're very busy with preparations. We look forward to seeing you down here in New Orleans in a few days.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Have a great week.